G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome back to another video. Now my god, I'm recording this commentary the day after I did it because I was that excited to bring this video to you, so that's what we're going to do. It is the very first round of this year's official FIA Nations Cup. So the previous couple of videos you've seen, that was from the end of the previous exhibition series, which is like a non-championship points just for fun, but this actually counts. So it is the Gran Turismo Shifter Kart 125 or something, whatever it's called, Racing Kart 125 Shifter around Autodromo Lago Maggiore Centre 2. So it's quite a mouthful. But this is the qualifying session here. Now you see I got an alright lap to start with. I got the slipstream of this guy here, Albert, 92F1. He bins it on the entry to turn 6, which is originally turn 2, but it's now the second to last turn. This is the final corner. So we lose that slipstream for the front straight here a bit, but we'll come up to the line. It's going to be a 49.625, which isn't too bad. But you see we've got plenty of time left as we come to start another lap. We've got the slipstream of this guy here, Tudery, T_Tudery down the main straight, which is good. It's actually the longest straight, only 550 metres. We catch right up to the back of him coming into turn 1. Not ideal, as I kind of want to stay behind for the whole duration, but you see he makes a right hash of turn 1, and I've lost that slipstream for this massive, I guess it's technically a straight, but it consists of 3 corners, but you see we lose that slipstream, and then on the entry, or on the exit of the final corner, I get a little bit of grass touching there, and I come across the line and it's 49.9, and I decide to pull off out of the way here because there's no point giving all these guys slipstream when I'm not going to go any faster. So we're going to slot in behind this group, and then we finally come around again to set my final qualifying lap. So this is the one that I've gone faster, so we'll go through a lap quite quickly here. It's only a 50-second lap, so we'll go through with the shifter guard here. Coming into turn 1, it's the hairpin. Looking on the right hand side, the last of the arrows up on the right hand side, braking down into third, roll the speed through the corner. Bit of kick of oversteer on the exit, but that's okay. The guy that I was following slams into the wall, but I've just got the slipstream of this kart way up ahead as we head through turn 2 now, the shallow left, turn 3, the shallow right, and then this is turn 4 here. It's not really a corner in these karts, but it is in big cars. Turn 5, braking into 5th gear, down 1 gear, and then into turn 6, braking halfway between the 2 corner markers, because I've got those turned on. 3rd gear, roll the speed through on the power nice and early. Final corner's flat out as well. Bit of a kick of oversteer on the exit, but you see we've got the slipstream down all the straights of the lap. Come across the line, it's going to be a 49.4, which is fine. Look, I could have gone a bit quicker if I was closer to slipstream throughout my laps there, but you see we're about halfway up the grid. But we've got all the chance in the world because this race is really characterised by slipstream. Basically, if you're in the slipstream, you've got every chance. But as we know, FIA race, we're going to sit back and enjoy the intro. Right, so there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. I thought this is very Mario Kart-esque, so why not add a bit of Mario Kart in there. It's also Mario Kart DS, which was my absolute childhood. I remember being so excited on my birthday when I got that. That was 15 years ago, quite a long time ago. But we'll come with the race now. So the strategy, there isn't any basically. There is There's no fuel use, so fuel you don't have to worry about whatsoever. And then tyre wear is set on 10, but we're on the kart, the lightest car in the game. Let's have a look. How heavy is this bad boy? Oh, I don't have that written down. Anyway, lightest car in the game. We're on sports soft tyres, so racing's tyres wear the quickest because they have the most grip. These tyres not so much. So you'll see towards the end of the race a slight bit of tyre wear, but that's it. You see we've got 25 laps of this. So we're going to come through lap 1 as well, just as long as we remain in the slipstream of this front battle. You know, there's not really much to worry about because you've got every chance in the slipstream. Now these karts, all I can say is imagine driving these in real life. Oh, massive kick of oversteer as we head over the hump on the exit of turn 5. What was I going to say? Imagine driving this in real life. You'll see come down the straight here, in the slipstream, roar past 150 kilometers an hour, and we're in 6th gear, and we top out just before 180. Nearly 200 kilometers an hour in a go-kart. That would be scary. There would be a lot of, you know, if I was coming to this event as a real race meeting, I would bring a significant suitcase full of exclusively just underwear because there would be a lot of accidents coming through this. You see, coming into turn 5, there's actually a massive incident there. One guy loses it off the curb and wipes out another guy. So I've lost the slipstream of those pair, but luckily we're just under a second ahead of this group up ahead. So we're going to keep into the slipstream here, which is good. Now, a couple of housekeeping items with the kart. It's a little bit different to racing a car. If you look down on the bottom, I've got some of the assists might be a bit different if you're an eagle-eyed viewer. ABS is the yellow, which is it's called off, but it's not really off. So in the game there are 3 ABS settings, off, weak and default. Normally you want default, but in the karts the brakes just don't lock. So you have it off to get maximum braking, really. And of course tyre wear isn't really an issue, so you don't need to worry about that either. So ABS is off. I've also got TCS on 2. Basically these karts, with a wheel, pretty much undrivable. So I've got TCS on to avoid some oversteer, and you see even with it, you'll see throughout the race I get massive oversteer kick moments, and honestly, all I can say is when it comes down to it, would I rather control a kart or have a race? It's going to be have a race. So if I can get some help controlling the kart, I'm absolutely going to take it. And of course you can use TCS. I'm also using quarter markers, a couple of little assists. I mean, I'm playing a video game, why would I make it harder for myself in the end, really, especially when these karts, they're so twitchy. But anyway, we'll come back to the action now because I've got the whole race here completely unedited. It was that exciting. Coming into turn 5, right up behind Nixie here, but I just back off and let him go in ahead and look down on the radar. Massive oversteer kick moment. I get a nice punt coming into turn 6, so if I went off the track at that point and lost slipstream, that's a race over by 3 minutes in, but thankfully that didn't happen, so we're going to remain on the main straight here. We'll just keep an eye on all these karts up ahead because basically in this front pack, you can actually have a look on the minimap, the whole peloton is split apart already. But basically you just want to keep an eye out. You do not want people ahead of you to start battling unnecessarily and allow the leader to get out of slipstream range of second. So at this point here, first and second are together, bit of a gap back to third, but I do think third place is still in that slipstream there, and I mean these karts are very difficult to drive. There's every chance of someone losing control and, you know, falling back into slipstream range. But lap 5 was rather uneventful, to be honest. So come through the final corner, we've got someone off, so we're down to 5 players up the front here, but up into 5th position, of course. In the slipstream down the main straight, 180 kilometers an hour, unbelievable, braking on just that last arrow board. This Albert guy got one wheel onto the grass and just wipes out, or doesn't really wipe out, but has a bit of contact with the guy ahead of him, and I managed to get a double overtake by taking a late apex at turn 1. In the slipstream with Mixie here, he's probably just on the fringes of slipstream of the leader there, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that. So ideally I want to try and work together with Mixie here to try and close that gap into first, because if I catch up to Mixie and we start overtaking each other at every other corner, we're going to lose, well, the leader's going to get a massive gap. And it's a good way to monitor the gap is to have a look at the red number. Because I'm right behind him, essentially the gap between me and the leader is the same as the guy in second and the leader, and it's about 1.3 at the moment. So we are on fringes of slipstream, but I'm bump drafting him up the straight, which tells me he's not quite getting that full strength of slipstream that I am, because he's not quite close enough for it. Coming through turn 1, 1.3 seconds behind the leader as well, so I'm just catching fringes of slipstream, or I am within the fringe, the latter fringe of slipstream distance from the leader. The guy in second is obviously getting significant slipstream, as I didn't really gain down that whole straight bit there. So it's at this point here where we can start to think about, you know, maybe we can overtake second here, because he is going to be, he is in slipstream range of that leader as well. And you see coming onto the main straight, I don't quite go for the move there, so we're just going to tuck into slipstream. Coming into turn 1, can we get a move on just going to the back of him a little bit there, which isn't ideal for an overtake, but we're going to come into turn 1 now. I go to the inside brake where I think I need to, but the Mixie guy outbrakes me and takes much more speed through turn 1, so we're going to head onto the main straight now and see, or I guess the back straight technically, and just remain in slipstream of these two players here. Now, we've got a bit of a gap here, so we'll talk about the track. It's Autodromo Lago Maggiore Centre 2. You know, could you add any more words into that title? You probably couldn't if you tried. But it is the Maggiore GP. It's the centre portion, so you lose the first part with the complex turn 5, you lose the second part with the amazingly banked corner. You just run, you know, the two shortcuts together in the centre loop in the reverse direction. So it's a bit of a weird track, but I think it's perfectly fine for these karts. The straight's probably a little bit long, but it seems to work fine in the karts. I mean, I've brought you, what, a 26, 27 minute video on it, so it can't be that uninteresting. Come up into turn 5 now. Now, I was strong through turn 5 compared to the rest of the field. You see, I turn in quite early and drop a gear after I turn in, and you see I managed to get up the inside of this guy coming into turn 6. A little bit of contact through there, and I've got that TCS, so I can get on the power really early. I mean, TCS inhibits me a little bit, but I think it's fine in terms of getting onto the power early. So now we're up into second position. Got the guy in slipstream behind me, but I am in the slipstream of the leader, you know, significant slipstream, about a second behind. It's about 1.4, 1.5. At the time I did the race, they just did an update of the game where they supposedly reduced slipstream, like the slipstream length behind a car, from 1.5 to something, but, you know, after doing this race, I still think it's about the same, really, because you see I'm a second behind, and the guy behind me, right in my slipstream, is failing to overtake, so I'm getting enough speed from this kart ahead coming through turn 6, down on the radar. He nearly went for the move on the exit there, but doesn't quite come off. Massive kick of oversteer on the exit of the final turn there. You know, imagine if I didn't have TCS. This is level 2 TCS as well, not even level 1. 2 out of 5. Level, you know, TCS 5 basically completely inhibits your car from doing anything at all. You know, so TCS 1 is kind of coming out of the slow corner, the initial acceleration input. It might inhibit that a bit. But as far as like high speed stability, you would do want a little bit more TCS. Generally I like to drive without it, because that's how you go the fastest, but like I said earlier, if I was spinning out every 5 seconds, I would not be fighting up the front here. So, you know, it is what it is. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you don't really care, you don't care. I mean, in the end, I'm racing online, I'm not racing in real life, nor am I racing for a competition or a monetary prize, so it doesn't really matter in the end. So start at lap 12 now. We're coming up towards the halfway point of the race, and you see I'm in quite a good position here. I haven't binned it yet completely, which is good, and we've completely the four of us up at the front here. I've completely broken away from the rest of the field. You see there's a massive gap, almost half the length of one of the straights between the guy in 4th and the guy in 5th, so we don't really have to worry about people behind unless we start fighting massively. But the guy in the leader, he's actually racing quite good, to be honest. Like, he's hitting his apexes perfectly, coming through the final turn, no oversteer at that point, so you see we've got a nice balanced car. Coming through there at this point, coming on to lap 13, so we're more than halfway through the race. Now, I've got a 1.3 second gap to the guy in third, so we don't have to worry about slipstream so much behind. We don't have to, so much worry about an overtake from behind, but we do have to worry about trying to avoid any unnecessary fighting with this guy up in first. So, at this point I was thinking, look, I'm right on the edge of slipstream from the guy in third. When I catch up to the leader, which I think I will by the end of this flat out section, we hop over the curb. Actually, you can lose control on these curbs coming through this fast section, especially this one on turn 5. I'll tell you, my practice session, I'll come back to that. Almost go for the move at turn 6, going on the inside. You see I'm right on the very inside of turn 6 there, lovely, but he has the inside for turn 7. And you see that little bit of side-by-side action there, just allowed Mixie behind to catch up some time into the, to get more firmly into slipstream. He's now 7/10 behind, so that probably wasn't a very good idea. I should have sort of waited behind and maybe bub drafted him up the straight, but didn't quite work out. Coming through turn 1, he takes a evasive line, trying to break that slipstream, but I take it anyway. Moves back over to the right hand side. Now I hope this doesn't actually look too easy, but I can tell you, when you are controlling this car, any movement, the car just wants to move around. There's no downforce in this bad boy. It's so easy to lose control. And you see, now that I've caught up to the leader, back down onto the radar, if we, cast their attention down there, I've now got Mixie right on my tail. So, didn't really work out my plan here. So, now that he's so close to me, he'll probably gain out of any bit that I gain as well, so there's not really any chance of the pair of us or one of us sort of breaking away at this point, and that's alright. I mean, as long as we can sort of, we can fight within our pack, but kind of work together to keep the gap that we have from the rest of the field or the next group backwards on the road. But that's alright. Coming into turn 5, let's see how much time we gain. I'm about a quarter of a second, and I'm actually way wide through turn 5, and I've actually got both of my competitors up the inside through turn 5. One of them goes a bit deep through turn 6, but he's on the inside for 7, and I managed to keep it around the outside actually, and I'm in the slipstream of Albert as well, and he gets a poor exit, Mixie behind, so I am down into third, but I don't mind really, as long as Albert remains in the slipstream of the leader, as long as you don't lose that leader, it'll be okay. Coming into turn 1, I actually don't take the best line in. You see Albert, is right up, pretty much side by side with the leader at this point. And he actually comes into the lead, so for the first time in the race, we have another player finally actually contending for the lead. You see it's switched a few times going down the straight between first and second between the two guys up ahead. Albert's a little bit wide through turn 5. I'm up on the very inside. Any further and I'd absolutely launch over that sausage curb. Coming into turn 6, I'm on the outside for the final corner. Pretty much an exact repeat of the previous lap, except Albert now has the poor run, and instead of trying to overtake, I bump draft him to sort of really keep tabs on that leader, and you see he catches right up now, so that went exactly to plan. Breaking into turn 1, a little bit of lag from Albert there, but not to worry. I'm on the very inside of turn 1. I'm on the inside here, and I'm actually up into the lead. Lap 17, the first time in the race. I started 7th, and it's finally beginning to look like I could actually contend for the lead here, but of course, up in the lead you don't have slipstream, so that's going to be quite difficult. Up into turn 5, can I use this to my advantage? I can. Look how far inside I am, but I do have one cart coming up on the inside through turn 6. I have to give them the space, and then he's up the inside through turn 6 and around the outside before turn 7, so up into the lead for about half a lap, but as long as we remain in slipstream, imagine if I had $1 for every time I said that. I'd be quite rich at this point. But he goes to the inside for turn 1. I was in the slipstream, of course. I was quite, I was really, careful about taking different lines, especially in these karts, because, you can see I'm quite, I'm in control of my vehicle here, and that's fine, but I really felt as though I was relying on reference points on the track to really be able to wheel the kart around the circuit, so I was very careful about taking different lines through the corners, as I didn't really want to, you know, start having to look for references and taking, you know, things that I'm not used to. Up the inside on turn 6, inside of turn 7, I get a nice exit. Massive kick of oversteer, my goodness, almost complete 90-degree wheel lock to the opposite direction of the corner. And you see that actually gives me a poor run. I try to pull into the slipstream behind Albert, but we just make slight contact and I lose further speed down the straight. Not good. Turn 1, I've got Albert up the inside of turn 1, goes a little bit deep. I get the cut back into the slipstream of Fixer. I got that late apex thing because I was trying to get that cut back, and I get a nice run down this flat out section around the outside of turn 3. Turn 4, you do not want to touch any of these curbs through here. And then up into turn 5, I'm on the wrong side through my strong corner, so that's never good. Got a car on my left hand side, makes side to side contact through Mixie now, he's up into the mix. But that's alright, no penalties so far, so that's actually something we haven't mentioned in this video, which is strange because this is a Gran Turismo Sport video in case you didn't get the memo from when you clicked on it. No penalties to report of at this point. Coming into turn 1, I'm once again on the outside. You see, I'll pull to the outside when I'm in slipstream for turn 1 because I felt much more comfortable trying to go for cutbacks on the exit, as I managed to pull a few off throughout the course of this race, but I had never ever practiced going up the inside and trying to sort of outbrake and turn on the apex because the karts are just so twitchy. I did not want to try and start forcing it to do more than I'm sort of comfortable with. Coming into turn 5, Albert goes across the nose of my car, makes slight side-to-side contact with him. Up the inside through turn 6, run a little bit deep, and he gets the cutback. But I'm on the inside for turn 7. I'm going to be able to keep second place. I am no oversteer on the exit, so I get a good run onto the main straight here. We're on the final 5 laps of the race now, so it's really heating up. We've managed to keep a good pace here into the slipstream of Fixer throughout the main straight, braking into turn 1, down into 3rd gear, roll the speed through the corner, don't touch that sausage curb on the inside, actually get a nice exit as well, not much oversteer as well, which is nice for a change. These karts are pretty much synonymous with anti-steering, I guess I'd call it, understeer and oversteer. Coming into turn 5, we know that I'm strong here, my other competitors aren't quite as strong. He touched the grass on the entry, manages to get that late apex, slide it after the apex of turn 5 into 6. You see, I'm on that sort of red and white curb. It can unsettle the kart if you take it incorrectly, but if you're smooth about it, you can take it as I do there. Into the slipstream, down the main straight. We're going to bump draft now, we're going to pull to the outside, so I do want to try and get the guy on the inside to try and outbrake me, and then in turn outbrake himself. You see, he pulls it up on the apex nicely on the inside there, so he's had quite a bit of practice in this kart, to be fair to him. I did about 40 minutes of just continuous lapping. It was about 50 laps worth, and I finally got into a 49. You may have seen that on my Instagram story down in the description if you'd like to chuck me a follow on there. That would be much appreciated. We'll come back to the action now. So we're about to start, the closing stages of the race now, so it's really sort of heating up to the point where we've really got to start to think about, how can we get into the lead and stay into the lead for the final few laps of the race. We're on lap 23 out of 25 now. Just a quick note on tyre wear, you see there's still no tyre wear on the tyres on the bottom left, so that 10 times tyre multiplier, the kart is so light. Basically, it doesn't wear the tyres. You see how much ground I gained throughout turn 1 and nearly actually lose control. See how much steering input there was, see how much steering movement of the steering wheel there was at that point there. And, I'll be completely honest, my heart rate was, sky high at this point because I was so on edge controlling the kart. I was, contending for the win after starting 7th. I've got 3 other karts around me. I don't want to push anyone off. I don't want to bin anyone off. We've got a yellow flag coming through turn 6, and you see coming on to lap 24, I'm down into 4th at this point, so it's not really going that well at the moment. We actually have GTP Greatness having an absolute horrible time hitting the wall on the exit of the final corner there, down in 20th position. Not so sure how much greatness there is in his driving as much as there is in his username, but we'll come back to the action now. We've got 2 laps to go, or 1 and a bit laps to go. See, this pack up ahead, we're just fighting so much. But it's at this point here where you can kind of afford to do that. Mixie in 3rd, Albert in 2nd, Fixer in 1st place. Fixer has actually done quite well to stay in sort of pole position for the duration of the race. Coming into turn 5 on the inside of 2 karts here, up the inside through there, keep it very far to the inside, braking into turn 6, turning in very early for 6, keeping it on the inside, and we're going to go through turn 7 now. Let's see, do we get a nice exit? We do get a nice exit down the straight now, so we're in the slipstream of Fixer. We've got another kart behind. Fixer's just moving, you know, across the width of the track. You see how fast I'm gaining. It goes to the very, very far inside. I didn't even have the option to go to the inside at that point. Going to try and get the cut back through turn 1. We got a little bit of overspeed there, but you see there was that TCS kicking in, just sort of inhibiting my getting onto the power there. Down into the slipstream of the final straight bit, final time, the 25th out of the 25th time on this race. We're going to try and come up the inside of turn 6, up the very inside. We're on the left hand, so we're going to try and late braking manoeuvre, and I just slightly misjudge it. You see got Albert going up the inside, but he runs deep through turn 6. So as long as we can sort of keep control through the final couple of corners there, it looks like it's going to be a second place. And it is a second place after all of that. It's going to be second. And my goodness, that was... Honestly, I hope you enjoyed that. Like, you don't even need to appreciate or necessarily enjoy motorsport in general to understand sort of how tense, how delicately poised this race was. It was absolutely amazing, and the fact that I'm making the video the day after I did the race says a lot there. You see, there I am in my Mario Kart liveried racing shifter kart there. Second place, up 5 positions. So remember, I started 7th. I got a nice 164 points for my efforts in Nations Cup there. And I'll be completely honest, I nearly passed out at the end of that race. I was like sitting on my couch with at my wheel. I'll probably post a setup pic at some point because you haven't seen that yet. Once again, that will be on my Instagram. Please do once again chuck me a follow on there. But anyway, I was on the couch, the race ended, and I just honestly like fell over onto the couch. It was that, honestly, it was like catharsis. It was like a release. It was so tense. You know, I honestly don't even remember if I was breathing. And honestly, greatest race of all time. I saw the combination. I was like, look, let's give it a go. I can dress it up as a Mario Kart video, which you can see I still did. But I honestly did not expect it to go as well as it did. So I do hope you enjoyed. I do thank you for getting this far into the video. I do thank you very much for watching. Of course, do hit the like button if you did, and you know, I'd be very disappointed if you didn't, because you know, you don't even need to appreciate or be interested in motorsports to enjoy that race there. And do subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. But that's going to be the end of this one today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.